Hello, dudes and dudettes. It's time once more to spend some time on the therapy couch with your doctor, Sigmund Dude. Oh man, that's good shit. So, man, if you wander up into Yooper country, or to those northern shores we're colonizing, you will encounter these jacks and cats calling themselves the Wanderers. They're easy to spot. They wear a green tabard or a tunic with a triskele. That's that three-sided Celtic knot in a circle. Now, they ain't some hep traveling band, man. They're a religion. Sort of. Well, more of a philosophy, I guess. Or a tribe, man. A tribe that doesn't have a homeland, kind of. Well, man, I guess it's hard to say exactly what these jacks and cats are, man. You can meet these jacks as they wander south. There's a training hall here in Lansing proper. So what's the story with these cats? Well, these jacks and cats think the technology is useful, but only so much so. They ain't got no problem with you using it yourself. They just don't use much of it themselves. I knew this one wanderer, cat called Gloria, who helped me out during that misunderstanding I had with certain authorities. She would give me any fusion cells we would find from my laser pistol, while using an old shotgun herself. Looked like the thing had done been part of a caravan all the way from New Vegas out to here. In this, she was a bit more progressive than most of her wanderer kin, who often just used bows or scabbard crossbows to plink at the odd rad stag for dinner. She would give me any pre-war food packs we found, eaten off the land herself, and though she wouldn't refuse a stem pack if it were needed, she preferred to heal naturally or use wasteland remedies. And this is one of the core tenets of their philosophy, that as much as possible, one shouldn't rely on technology to solve a problem. But they also don't have a problem with using technology to make things better in a general sense, man. I remember a water purification plant that Gloria helped me fix up for her town, and a robot she tinkered with to haul a plow. And in the entire time I knew her, she never preached down to anyone, man. Unlike certain preachers I know from our southern neighbor. Forefathers. Forefathers. And she would read anything about technology that we ever found. Reading in general was something that Gloria always loved to do. She was a slick cat like that. Smart. When Gloria wasn't reading, she was practicing her moves or building up her body. The Wanderers believe that since you always have your body with you, no matter where you go, you can always rely on it. They spend time building up their strength, endurance, agility, and refining their ability to use their senses. Gloria's night sight was very acute, and she seemed to be able to hear everything. They prefer using their hands and blunt weapons when fighting other folks, and Gloria had this thing for subduing people rather than just blowing their heads off if she could manage it. Once there was a raid on a campsite that we've discovered, and we interrupted these raiders trying to have their way with some jacks. Gloria made it a point to shoot those raiders in the arms and the legs, whereas I satisfied myself with going center mass. I thought that she was being foolish for this at the time. She spent the entire after battle when I was scrounging, tending wounds of the people we had just shot that were trying to shoot us, man. We ended up marching 10 miles out of our way to the nearest township to turn those Raider Jacks over to the local LC Cowboys for justice. The entire way, Gloria spent that time talking to these Jacks and listening to them in turn. Man, I fumed about it. I really did, man. I thought she was being idiotically moral, man. Yet, 5 years later, I ran into one of those same Jacks that I'd been shooting at. He was wearing a Novapax collar now, preaching the good word. He was running an orphanage and helping folk out, so, hey, maybe Gloria could sense that something wasn't completely rotten in that Jack's soul. And that brings me to the weird thing about the Wanderers. See, now I know this is going to sound like something somebody says when they are up. And yes, I am currently pharmaceutically aided. But I'm not the only one who's seen this, man. The Wanderers, they can do some really weird shit. Gloria? Gloria could read minds. I swear she could. And I saw her use this to dodge and duck punches. Ain't no one ever laid a hand on that cat. She claimed that other Wanderers, and I've heard it from other sources I consider highly veracious, that other Wanderers can actually move things with their minds and heal wounds with a touch. I know. Sounds like stories people tell about the elves. But the thing is, the Wanderers spend a lot of time with the elves. I hear that they have a school up there in the Elfwood for the Wanderers. And had it not been for the Wanderers, the elves probably never would have entered into the alliance they have with the Lansing Republic. Now, Gloria would talk often. God, she would talk often. Even though she wasn't pharmaceutically aided, she always talked like somebody who was. Her rants were always about hope, and they were full of love and peace and a vision for a better world, but not pie-in-the-sky kind of dreams, man. No, Gloria always rooted her rants in things that she could actually do, that people could do, and in ways to motivate people to be better and help others. That cat knew the Bible better than any Novapax preacher I've ever met, and when she spoke, she blended in words from other thinkers like Socrates, Descartes, Jung, and Chuang-Tzu. I remember asking her once what the religion of the Wanderers was, and she said, "Wanderers are sort of Zen Franciscan druids." And I'm not sure she was joking. See, I remember this one day that I know for sure I was not up, because I was out. I'd gone through my stash. It was the last day that I ever saw Gloria. Sometimes, when we slept, she'd get these glimpses of things that were going to happen or where we needed to go. That last night we were together, she picked up this kind of image, song line, she called it. And we ended up walking along this song line that I couldn't see till we came to a dead garden full of dead plants. "Sigmund, do you believe in miracles?" she asked me. "I don't think God gives a crap," I remember saying with a high degree of bitterness. "That is not what I asked, Sigmund. Sigmund, do you believe that something you have never seen before can happen? Do you believe that just because something seems impossible, that it must be so?" she asked me. Well, I don't know. I mean, I guess, man. If I were to believe in miracles, it would have to be the kind of miracles that we can make for ourselves, I answered her. "Exactly so," said she. And then this dead plant that she had picked up and was holding in her palms, it turned green, man. It grew fat with fruit, and the next thing I knew, the thing is budding with blackberries. And I nibble on it, and I kid you not, the sweet juice of blackberries is what I tasted. Remember, Sigmund, this resurrection you have just witnessed is the same exact process with the human spirit. All it takes is something to inspire us, a jump start, if you will, and the motor of the world will roar back to life. But you have to believe that such a thing is possible, or it never will start. And those are the last words Gloria ever spoke to me. After I got settled in Lansing, I spent some time at a school the Wanderers have here. Dojo, they call the place. It's a simple building with a few paintings on the inside, and along the walls they have all these copies of lessons from the various books and stuff that they read. Oh, the floor is padded, and it's easy to fall on, and brother, let me tell you, you will do a lot of falling on it if you go there. I remember trying once to hit the instructor, who they call a sensei, and I couldn't lay a hand on him, man. It was like watching cats fight Gloria. He threw me all over the place, deflecting punches and kicks, and when I tried to bull rush him, he lifted me off the ground, man. And he didn't use his hands to do it. He lifted me with his mind, man. With his mind. Oh. But not every wanderer is gentle and kind. For as often as I watched Sensei patiently block the punches of those that came to challenge him, or hold someone up with his mind because they were being dangerous to themselves or to others and talk them down, there are wanderers who do not hesitate to use pain as a teacher. I once made the mistake of crossing such an instructor, and there may or may not have been some unapproved of activity with his daughter. The Wanderers, like any organization, have a pecking order. They say in the old days they used color patches or bells to denote who had more seniority and who was the boss, the big bosses and such. But now they use titles. Most of the Wanderers you're likely to meet are called apprentices. Jackson cats just starting to learn the skills. Their instructors are called just that, instructors. Wanderers that don't have an apprentice are usually referred to as wanderers or journeymen. A second senior journeyman is often called a walker or a pilgrim, to use the old form. Above the pilgrims are the senseis. These are those wise enough to have settled down and run a training hall or a community. Above the senseis are the masters. And a master in action, that is an amazing thing to see, man. A handful of masters become sages. These jacks are said to be able to do legendary things with their power. And after seeing glory in action and having my sensei levitate me against my will, I believe just about anything with these jacks is possible. Now, they don't seem to have a rigid code like some other organizations, but they do have a set of principles they try to live by and fulfill. A wanderer, first and foremost, serves to perfect their own mind, body, and character, for they believe that without this, they can be of no use whatsoever to anyone else. A wanderer, second, does what is right and avoids what is wrong. Lengthy debates get involved in this one, and it is amongst the wanderers these debates take place, in dojos late at night or when a sensei poses a parable or a question. Often Gloria would do this to me at fireside. They often will review how a past wanderer has handled a situation and debate its virtues and its vices. There are seldom any hard do or don'ts produced from these meetings or these considerations, and the purpose of them seems to be to get the students to always be thinking about the ramifications of their actions, man. Which, frankly, we all could use some more of. It'd be fair to say the Wanderers have a results-oriented philosophy. That is, they look at the results that are produced by an action rather than the means that were behind it. This seems largely true, but not always, for Wanderers do seem to have a value on the freedom of you being able to say what you want to say, think what you want to think, and live how you want to live. They don't seem fit to do anything that might restrict these things. Now, it varies highly in degree from wanderer to wanderer, mind you, because they're people. But in general, they do seem to lean towards the end result of an action, rather than hold on to any cultural norms or principles. Gloria once asked me what I thought made something right or wrong, and P and Flip and I said, well, of course, whatever's right's whatever the state says. At which point she said, well, if Lansing tomorrow legalized murder, Sigmund, would it be right? Just because the state legalized it? She had me there. A wanderer, thirdly, acts in such a way as to bring about what they feel they must do for themselves and for others in such a manner that will not harm or impose upon others. And finally, a wanderer never refuses a prospective student the chance to become a wanderer themselves, though they may make the tests and the training they give any student or prospect very difficult. Training does have a skeletal structure of things a wanderer is expected to know for having trained for so many years. And it should be stated that there is some uniformity in the basic curriculum, but the training is so highly specialized between the student and the master that it's common for one wanderer to relate to you a story of something he had to do in his training that another one did not. And many of these tests, oriented specifically to making someone face their individual faults and refine them, even if they don't wish to or wish to avoid doing so. And I can testify that this last part of their culture, It's the most vexing. My sensei would tell me one thing one day, then the opposite the next, and say that both were true. He would give me instructions that seemed to be exact, only for me to later realize that they meant something completely different. And to that, I find it difficult to talk about, but I probably should. I should tell you, Jackson Katz, what got me thrown out of the Wanderers. When I was serving, there was this foxtail bastard that kept creeping into our zone, doing horrible things. I ain't gonna detail them to you. I don't want you to give you my nightmares, man. But when I was serving, I missed 3 chances to catch this son of a bitch. And he always got a way to wreak more havoc. He even shot me once, hitting me in the thigh. One night, the Wanderers dismissed everyone from the dojo. Sensei grabbed me by the collar and told me to wait. There I am alone in a ring of senior students, thinking I'm about to get myself beat up. But instead, Sensei locks the door, closes the blinds, and he orders no one to ever speak about what was going to happen in this room next. And we all agreed. A man hooded and bound was brought out into the center of the room. Sensei then told me, we all have to live with ourselves and the decisions that we make, even those that seem that we had to obey them because someone in power or authority told us to do. I want you to do what will protect the people you love, Sigmund. Then he put a revolver, an old pre-war Colt Python, in my hands. I remember opening the cylinder and seeing the shiny end of the shells and their fresh, newly pressed primer caps. The hood of the captive was whisked off, and there before me was the foxtail bastard that had murdered, burned, and tortured his way across the land that I had tried to protect. And I swear to you, I did not hesitate. The second that hood came off, I raised the revolver, and I pulled that trigger twice. The gun roared, and nothing happened, man. So I fired again. Nothing happened to him again. Sensei took the pistol from me. Blanks, he explained. Your training here is done. There's nothing more I can do for you. What do you mean? I remember asking him. You could have called for the LCs. You could have asked us to take him to the sheriff. You could have respected the legal system you swore to protect and allow it to process him, and if need be, punish him. Instead, you decided to murder him, Sigmund, Sensei said to me. You told me to do what it would take to protect the people I love, I cried. Yes, and you chose personal revenge instead, Sigmund. I watched as he loaded the revolver with new shells. These were not blanks. Well, fine, let's take him in then, I said. I cannot help you. You should leave the rest of this to us, the sensei said. He's dangerous. He'll escape, I remember saying. Man, what Sensei said next kind of broke my heart. You do not know that, he said, and he will not escape. The people you love are protected from him. But who will protect them from the rage that's burning inside you, Sigmund? I wanted to punch the placid and sad expression from his face. And he looked at me knowingly, and I realized he was right. And I do not mind telling you that I felt guilty and ashamed that I had failed, that I would always fail. And I ran from the dojo, and I have not ever gone back. As I ran that night, I heard a gunshot. Not one of the blanks, I assume. It was the sensei's last gift to me, you see. I had, after all, just attempted a murder. And if the victim pressed charges, I would find myself in a trial that I could not truthfully deny what I had tried to do. I had tried to murder the man, not kill an enemy combatant in wartime. That last gift since they give me was give me time to try to right my error. I haven't been able to deal with the anger from the things I've seen or done. I doubt I ever will, man. Probably why I smoke so much thistleweed. And if I weren't stoned out of my mind right now, I wouldn't even be telling you about it. I honestly believe I'm beyond saving, man. But maybe Gloria was right. I hope she was right. I want to believe.